to Poetry of the Harlem Renaissance. This will be the last new poem, and there will be one more piece where you kind of put it all together after that in another video. So just to recap the previous video, we've already looked at one poem by Langston Hughes and another one by Claude McKay, both of whom were poets during the Harlem Renaissance, which was a time of cultural awakening, particularly African-American cultural awakening in New York City from the early 1910s through the mid-1930s. These poets were responding to their experience in America at the time. So the next poem is going to be a similar response. It's not directed at America per se like the other two have been, however, but it is still a response to Langston Hughes' experience as an African-American man during that time period. So this is Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbin' on, and reachin' landin's and turnin' corners, and sometimes goin' in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you turn back, don't you set down on the steps, 'cause you find it's kinder hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still goin', honey, I's still climbin', and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Now, this poem's a little bit different. You may notice that it's written with pretty bad grammar. It's intentional, though. It serves a purpose. So I'm going to read it again in just a second. That was kind of just me reading it as it is, just the words on the page. The way that this poem is written, the structure, the word choice, the tone that he evokes is important in developing that theme, that life lesson, which really ties into the same theme that the other two poems have had, which is why I'm pairing the three together. So I'm going to try this again. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters, and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you turn back, don't you set down on them steps, 'cause you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Same poem. I read it a little bit differently. The words are still the same, but the tone that the word choice evokes contributes to a theme. It tells you that there is something that you've got to do in your life, that this person, this narrator, this mother talking to her son has done in her life, that she's trying to convince her son to do as well. So before we move on, I want you to take a second and think on that. What is this mother trying to get her son to do? Or not do, as the case may be. Now, what I want you to do is compare the three. What are some things that are the same? What are some things that are different? If all three have something in common, put it in the middle. If it's common to two of them but not the other one, put it in the overlap between those two poems but not the center. If there's something that is unique to each one, and each of these poems has something unique, and it has some things that are in common with the other two, or perhaps one of the other two. So what I want you to do is think on that. What's the same? What is different? Are the themes the same? Are the ways that the poets get to the theme the same? How is the poem structured? Does it contribute? What do you learn? How is it said? What does the word choice look like? I want you to take some time and compare how these poets, two of them are the same, two poems are by the same poet, one's by a different one. I want you to take a second though and compare how these poets got to the point that they are trying to make to talk about their experiences in different ways. Because it is very different, but it's very important to look into how they are getting there and what that message is. What did they go through? What did they put together to tell you about it? And what message did they hope that you would take away? That's what I want you to create on this Venn diagram. Easiest thing to do, take out a piece of paper, draw some circles. Doesn't have to be pretty. You can do it however you want to, but we're going to compare these three things, and it's going to come up in this next piece as well. Okay? If you need to, go back to the poems. You can find them online. They're free sources. Or you can listen to them again in the videos if that's how you want to go about it. Okay? So for now, I'll leave you with this. Compare the three poems, how they got to their message, what caused them to create this message in the first place. For now, we'll leave you with that.